Director Slater Carter,
Present.
Director Harvey, Director.
I see Scott's connected.
Director Boyd is coming.
I
Okay.
see he's connected without a mic yet, but
I'm
I
here.
just saw that apparently Allison and Clemens are in the same room together.
We are. That's why we're wearing masks.
Yeah, you must better be wearing masks because you're looking out the
That's it.
same window.
hello, Scott. Well, I'm assuming Jim will be here momentarily. There is no president statement tonight. Oral comments other than those on the agenda. Greg?
I have three things to bring up. One is I was interviewed by Half Moon Bay Review editorial board today, and in the course of that discussion, comments were made that caused me to believe that I need to do an article about the impact of the lawsuit on SAM governance, the member agencies, and the public. Some of you know I've done research on the legal expenses at Half Moon Bay, which I have not yet disclosed, but I can't hold on to it any longer. So I'm inviting anyone who's watching this video, even later, to submit to me any thoughts they have on what the impact of this lawsuit has been on Montara's water district and supply. And on the board, I believe the members of this board have been preoccupied with it for some time. Second issue, and relates to the first, is I haven't heard whether we're going to have a strategic planning meeting this year. And I have mentioned several times over the last year that if the issue of consolidation came up, as it did today in my interview, we maybe should do a task force to study it, and I would be glad to be on that. I've done some research on it and so forth. I did trip over an interesting email thanks to a local politician. Apparently in 2010, Half Moon Bay was on the verge of voting to dissolve because of financial difficulties.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting. It ties back to my theory that they were so preoccupied with their finances in 2009. That's when they denied the maintenance on the IPS that led to the spill. So are we going to have a strategic plan is my question. And if so, when? What will be the agenda and so forth? Finally, I brought up to the discomfort of some of you the issue of firefighting water storage before. I have it from inside information from CAL FIRE. The big wave is going to require 360,000 gallons of water storage, firefighting water storage. And that's down from 600,000 on the prior configuration of big wave. I'm trying to get CAL FIRE to go on the record on that. But I'm curious whether the board has considered that this amount is in excess of the amount reserved. And I realize we have 1.4 million gallons in total, but the rest of that is for other purposes. So while we could fight a fire with residential water, if we wanted to, that would leave some deficit in the water. So I'm wondering whether we're going to take this occasion to consider big wave and further Cypress Point, which will have quadruplex units in a dense development and undoubtedly will require additional firefighting water storage as we negotiate with the applicants for connection. So I had written Clemens about a week ago asking for what permit or materials Big Wave had presented at the time that they filed for connection, because I wanted to see whether in that permit they had disclosed their need for firefighting water storage. I haven't heard back from Clemens. So I'm asking my question in general, in public, about whether or not they're aware of these firefighting water storage needs for Big Wave and other applicants. Does my mic not work?
No, my mic
Yeah.
is off. Are you done with your comment? Okay. Clemens, I am correct that all the hearsay in the world is not the same as a written condition of approval. Am I correct?
You're right.
And so until we have a written condition of approval from either the fire department or from the county on this specific project, or a communication from the fire district, uh, we have no reason to take any action on this or consideration of it. Am I correct?
Correct, yes, that's right.
So,
So
Greg,
did they not file a permit with you indicating that information?
So there is a permit that we issued for a mainline extension, right? So that is what we have permitted currently. That's what I can talk about. I'll reply to your email also in writing once I put the information together, of course.
thank you.
Okay.
Do I see any more comments from the public? I see Michelle is here. Do you have a comment? I take it no.
I'm,
Do we
if I
have
might,
any comments from the board?
I'm unclear on something that Greg said. We have over 1 million gallons in storage. Greg cited a number that was less than a third or a quarter of that, but then made the assertion that that somehow creates a deficit, and I'm unclear on how that math would work.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
So it is possible to fight a fire with the water that the district has in storage. Okay, my question is, what happens if it exceeds the amount that is reserved for firefighting? What happens? Where does that water come from? And it comes out of the
Well,
storage.
So
but
what Clemens said last time, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Well, that storage is allocated to other things, right? So then what happens to the other things to which that storage is allocated if that amount is used up? One presumes we replenish the tanks. I don't know how long that takes. Just an item of curiosity.
Okay, well, I'm going to push back hard on this notion from what you asserted as a deficit, because using a fraction of the water for a fire of that size, assuming that all of that water would have to come from our supply, we have that and more. And if you want to understand where the storage number comes from, that's all in our public works plan about where those numbers come from. There's no deficit, and asserting that there's a deficit, it doesn't do any positive good in this conversation. So I'm pushing back hard on that. Clemens, Clemens, if I have this wrong, please let me know.
You're absolutely correct. We have 1.3 million gallons in storage, roughly, and those can be used for fire suppression at any time. Greg, you asked how fast we can recharge the tanks. It's going to be within a day or less. So
Okay, good.
we can.
Now the question remains: if this other development requires more than we currently have allocated for firefighting water storage, what is the district going to do?
So the allocation of the firefighting number is an arbitrary number that Montara set as a goal that we have. That doesn't mean that we don't have more water available for fire suppression. I can only repeat, we have 1.3 million gallons available to fight fires in Montara and Moss Beach.
I suggest that you folks, Greg, that you get this as a fact rather than as a comment from the fire department or the county. You might want to look and see if the fire department has approved the plans. They have to sign off too. So they can put their conditions in when they sign off.
I have tried. Of course, you might imagine they're very busy. And Jonathan Cox, who's the official spokesman, you can hear talking on the radio because he's busy with the fires in Napa. But I'm doing my best. That's one of the reasons I asked to see the documents that Big Wave might have filed already to see what was in those.
I think that you can also ask the county to see if it had, because before the county signs off on it, the fire department has to sign off and give a copy to the county. So they should have that online for you. Moving right along, I see no more hands waving. So we will move on to public hearing, of which there is none, and then consent agenda. And we have the approval of the minutes for the regular scheduled board meetings of September 3rd and 17. Approve, that's 2020, approve financial statements for August 2020, approve warrants for October 1, 2020, SAM flow report for August 2020, monthly review of current investment portfolio, connection permit applications received, monthly water production report, rain report, monthly solar energy report, and monthly public agency retirement service report for July 2020. Do we have a motion?
Move to accept.
Thank you.
A second.
Thank you, Peter. Motion by Rick and second by Peter. Do we have any items to discuss? Seeing none indicated, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes,
Director Harvey is not present at this time.
thank you. Motion carries unanimously. There is
Catherine,
no
real quick,
old business.
we have an air purifier going behind me, so I'm going to be muting because that might be too much noise for people, so I'll be on mute.
Okay. I have two dogs that occasionally bark, so I let myself go on mute too to keep Christine's dog from joining the party. Going on to item 1, new business, and Michelle and Greg, this is a really exciting one. I invite you guys to participate. District virtual tour, October 14th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, Catherine. We had this planned in March as a physical tour. This was a tour of the water system, sewer system, as well as we plan to talk about, the operations and also the financial aspects for the district. And that was all set up. We actually had already 3 fully subscribed tours for one Saturday planned, and that was then postponed due to COVID-19 concerns. That this was directly before shelter in place. So we are trying to now do this virtual and send out a postcard. The postcard is attached to the staff report that announces the tour for October 14th at 6:30. I think the advantage of this tour now being on Zoom is that it's recorded. It's going to be available afterwards on our YouTube channel as well as the district website. And so I invite everybody to participate and hope that the participation actually will be as high, if not higher, than it was planned for in March. So we're just hoping to get a lot of information about essentially where does your water come from and where does it go to all of our customers in the district. So hopefully we get some responses to the postcards, and word of mouth is happening through Zoom. So let's try it right now through Zoom to encourage folks to attend and learn more about our system. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much, Catherine.
And
This is Allison. Just curious if anyone has seen the postcard yet. It should have mailed yesterday, maybe even Tuesday.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Any day now, hopefully. Thanks.
It's not like the post offices are slowing down or anything.
Hopefully not.
Well, I will certainly promote at the speed of internet light.
Okay. Catherine, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I forgot to push talk. We do have posters that we're going to be putting up. Am I correct? So that people won't rely only on the postcards.
Yes, that is something you discussed. We haven't gotten those printed yet, but we'll get those going next week.
Okay. And somehow I lost the next agenda item on my phone. So
The next agenda
Clement.
item would be the review and possible action concerning the authorization to award the contract for this year's sewer improvement project and spot repairs. And so before I hand this over to Pippin, because he really did the work on all of this, I wanted to thank him. We went through an interesting bidding process, and I think we've got some very good and positive bid results back. And that is why I discussed this with Pippin. We're going to have actually a recommendation to spend a little more money this year on this. I'm going to take a little bit away from what Pippin is talking about here, but the bid is so favorable, and the alternative or the project that we've had planned, the Caltrans permit for the project, the main trunk line between 16th and 14th Street in Montara, may be pushed back a little bit. So we're pretty certain that at least the billing is going to fall in the next fiscal year. That's why we're not very concerned about recommending actually spending a little more money here. I think we can really take advantage of a very competitive bid. Pippin, if you can maybe tell us a little bit more about what you did and what we're seeing here.
Thank you, Clemens, and to all the members of the board and public here tonight. It's nice to go through this project every year. Montara has for years now, really since 2007, been extremely consistent with providing a capital plan and a capital project virtually every year or approximately every year to maintain and upgrade and rehabilitate the collection system. So as Clemens mentioned, we kind of have two scales of projects this year. The typical annual project are neighborhood sewers. That's just all out throughout the collection system. We have a goal to just keep up on fixing and spot repairs information we get from SAM on their yearly cleaning and so forth. And then there's the larger trunk sewer project, or alternately, some years we'll have pump station projects that are a little more expensive and you might save up for those. So earlier in the year, we had planned on the budget process to spend between $750,000 and $850,000 on the sewer project this year. So our estimate was for the base project was right around that amount. And based on other projects that we've had bidding recently, we have seen the current environment, particularly in the last 6 months, even the last 3 months, with economy uncertainty and people really wanting to ensure they have work. We've seen the prices drop significantly. So with that, we added to the project when we went to bid. We extended the bid time a little bit, and we added additional sewer segments that were sort of from next year's plan, and we priced it in the bid. So the contractor would have to provide the same pricing for the base work as the alternate work. So we wouldn't give the contractor the opportunity to boost up prices on the second half of the job, for example. Our low bid estimate or low bid provided is from a contractor that's done significant work in the district before and good work, was $689,000. So $160,000 less than our estimate. So with that, we were really encouraged with that, almost 20% savings over the planned expenditure. We contacted Clemens and discussed the importance of maybe taking advantage of that really good price and doing that alternate work that we had presented the contractor to price. So the combined recommendation would be $689,360 for the base bid and $398,934 for the alternate bid, for a total of $1,088,294. The area this particular year is we have work in, let's see, the streets are targeted for this project. We have some work near Date Hart Pump Station, and we have some work on Virginia Street, and some work near Wave in that area of Moss Beach. And the alternate work which we have proposed is near Stetson and Admiral. That's the overview of the project. Didn't change significantly from what we showed you before, with the exception of expanding the scope by bringing in some sewer lines for next year based on that prediction of a really good bid price, which we did get. So if you have any questions on the overview, I'd be happy to discuss it. The contractor of low bid is Pacific Trenchless. They were, I think, either the last year or the year before, I think it was last year's project they did for the district in the neighborhood. So they really were aggressive in coming back. They must like the neighborhood, working in the area, and we're really hoping to take advantage. But one thing I should add, in addition to this, many of these contractors have recognized that the districts take advantage of the good skills they have to get into these pipelines. And we've done this every year. In addition to the spot repairs, we'll have them bring their camera equipment. And since they're here looking at the pipelines that we're fixing, we'll add, which I put in the bid, an extra 5,000 or 10,000 feet of pipe in the neighborhood and say, okay, continue televising all of the areas around where you're working, or other areas where Sam has said they have difficulty cleaning. And that gives us more information about updating our priorities and risks, and possibly finding other urgent repairs that are needed.
That sounds excellent. A question I have for you, Pippin, I'm looking to see if Greg or Michelle have questions, and I don't see much, is at a recent SAM board meeting, Montara was alleged to have excessive amounts of I&I, inflow and infiltration for the audience. But we've been working on reducing that and televising our lines and fixing our lines. So I'm wondering if you feel that's an accurate statement.
Oh, that's a very good question. I think that the statement is not accurate. There are topography differences which might change the relative percentage of inflow versus infiltration. All three districts suffer from inflow and infiltration. And there's been numerous studies done by the JPA. And there's a really good summary report compiled by Carollo that looks back at all that idea, all the testing and actual rainstorm measurements. All the districts suffer from a similar amount of inflow and infiltration. Montara has, of the two types, inflow is what comes in maybe through broken cleanouts, cracked laterals, for example, shallower, more direct inflow, or maybe if there was a manhole that's under a gutter, just for example, where the water runs directly in. Infiltration is water that soaks into the main sewer system over hours, sometimes days, or even tidally, even consistently, depending on where the sewer pipe is with respect to the water table. So some of the other member agencies have pipes that are more in the water table and might suffer from more inflow, slightly relative to infiltration. But if you average out the numbers, that statement's not accurate. All three districts have a similar amount. I would say Montara is doing, as probably my opinion, is better than some of the member agencies and better than many sewer districts out there, because since maybe, I don't know the exact year, Clemens, but before you started, 2007, I think, when we started replacing lower laterals with projects.
Since 2007, we pretty much increased the frequency of our improvement projects and doubled the frequency.
We doubled the frequency in 2007, but starting at least maybe 2005, but definitely by 2007 and 2009, Montara has included in their capital project the replacement of lower laterals, if possible, to the property line. And starting about 3 years ago, where feasible, the board approved spending the money to go all the way to the house and for the repairs. Now, they're still privately owned pipes, but when the contractor's in the street working, the incremental cost to make that additional repair is very low. And so on average, every foot or every length of pipe we fix on the district main, we're fixing the same length of private lateral. So if we fix a mile of district sewer, we fix also approximately a mile of private lateral. So we're essentially doubling the footage of pipe repaired and are very aggressively reducing inflow and infiltration.
When you say the districts have the same amount of I&I, since Montara has only 20% of the flow or less, and Half Moon Bay has 56% of the flow, are you saying that that's percentage, same amount as percentage of their flow, or in terms of gallonage?
Very good question. Thanks for the clarification, Catherine. I was referring to that as a percentage. So, for example, if each district had 20% increase, or in some cases in the rainstorms, I think it's 300% increase, it's a percentage. So that would be, if it was a 300% increase, that would mean that during a rain event, the sewer system would be transporting 3 times more flow than in the dry percent. So as a percentage increase, all the districts are similar average. The gallons are generally scaled as to the size of the collection systems, the size of the population. So essentially this ownership of the plant, or the split that exists, would be the approximate split in gallons for I&I.
Great. Do we have any other questions?
Greg has his hand up.
Greg. Greg,
so I was wondering, how this might overlap items I had seen in writing before about capital projects that were being done kind of in advance, and the money was kind of split between, to the benefit of newcomers as to opposed to the benefit of existing connections. So does any of this work justify monies to be held aside and charged later to new developments?
It's all for existing pipes. This is addressing we're only fixing existing pipes here with these
Yeah.
projects. This is all for existing users, nothing for new users. Does that help?
Yep.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept this bid.
Thank you, Peter.
Second,
All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Loman,
yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes. Good. Moving on to the next item, and again, I've lost it. Got to get that printer working. Clement, if you could read.
got it.
Catherine, real quick, because this probably will come up at Sam again pretty soon. If I could just re-ask Pippin that one question about percents. By your statement on percents, does that mean if Half Moon Bay has 2.5 times the flow Montara does, by proportion, it would have 2.5 times the amount of I&I that we would in gallons?
I would say that's a fair statement. So
Okay.
it's you're in, if Montara delivered 100 gallons and the I&I was 20 gallons for a total of 120, and Half Moon Bay had delivered 500 gallons, then their I&I would be 600 gallons. So the percentage, it's a, say 10% more or 50% more. It's a ratio of how many pipes and how many connections and how many customers you have. All the districts would have a similar ratio. And there's some good reports that have been presented to Sam in the past that clearly explain that and talk about the different basins, describe different rainstorms. So for example, this is a very regional thing, not to get too detailed, but it is kind of fascinating, actually. You know, there have been days where Clemens and I were discussing, you know, where you guys remember, I think of about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a particular day when it rained 3.5 inches or so in an hour in Montara, or some very high number in a very short time. But in Half Moon Bay, it wasn't raining that particular moment. So that moment, Montara obviously is having more water hit the ground than another
That's
agency.
fine.
So
That's fine, thanks.
Great. Okay, moving right along to item 3 on new business, review and possible action concerning review of Recology 2021 solid waste rate increase.
All right, thanks, Catherine. So this is a process we're going through every year per contract. Recology provides financial information to us around this time. This is what we received now. We're reviewing this information. Actually, that's what Peter Medina with Mays and Associates does for us. So he's going to tell us tonight what he saw in the information that was submitted. So Recology is asking this year for a 1.97% rate increase. So what that would mean is that a standard 32-gallon can would cost $33.17. It currently costs $32.53. So that rate increase would start then January 1, 2021. The staff recommendation is to essentially receive the information that, or receive Mays's report. So Peter can tell us a little bit about what he did, what he looked at as every year. And then we're asking to publish a Prop 218 notice for the suggested solid waste rate increase to all customers. And if we get that done in a reasonable amount of time before the next meeting, then we actually can schedule that hearing for December 3. So that's our current goal, to get authorization for this 1.97% rate increase, Prop 218 notice to be sent out. It would be a public hearing on December 3. on 3rd of December, that ultimately then determines if there is a rate increase happening January 1 or not. Peter, if I can ask you to take over from here and tell us a little bit what you received and what you looked at.
Yes, thanks, Clemens. I was emailed about earlier in September what is referred to as Exhibit E from Recology of the Coast. This goes through the calculation as far as how they calculate the rate for 2021. The contract is dated as of 2013. And the way it works is every few years there is a cost-based adjustment, which goes back to their audited financial statements. This year was not one of those years. This was an index-based adjustment year, as it will be for next year as well. So this is the third straight year of an index-based rate adjustment. What I have done is reviewed their Excel worksheet, which really details out the prior year agreed upon rate, and then from there, all the various indices which go into factor the current year rate increase. What we go in, we review, first we tie out prior year to make sure that our starting point is accurate. And then from there, go through and the tedious task of making sure there's no silly Excel errors with the worksheet. The bulk of the work comes when we independently review the indices from the BLS. They provide them to us, but we want to go sure just to verify that there are none being misrepresented. So after going through this process, we then verify to Clemens via this report, the AEP report, that what we were provided is accurate. And that is what is before you now. Any questions, guys?
No, just a comment. I keep on hearing about trails of oil spilling all over the street whenever they pass by on Friday. I hear that from many neighbors. I haven't looked at it myself. I don't know if it's oil or if it's just the waste coming out of the bottom of the trucks. But that is a complaint that I've heard quite often.
Yes, that complaint has come up in the past, and it's going to be something that I believe will continue to come up. Chris has during the Prop 218 portion of the entire process, she's commented on that issue with various ratepayers, and I don't want to speak for her, but I assume that it'll come up again. In terms of what I did, it doesn't come up in terms of working on those numbers.
So Peter, we've gotten these complaints actually on a regular basis from folks. And what we of course do is we relay this to Recology, and Recology takes this very serious and immediately inspects all trucks, follows up driving the routes. They put really a lot of effort in with every complaint we get. And there was indeed one time that such a report resulted in a fix of the truck. Most of the times it is actually not related to Recology. It's different sheens on the asphalt, and there's always an explanation for. But we're happy to receive those comments, and we're happy that Recology at least one time was able to actually fix an oil leak through that.
I'll keep on tracking it, and then when I have a specific location and when I've made sure that it's oil, I'll report it to you.
Perhaps you could ask them to put some colored masking tape where it is, and we could follow up a couple hours later and see if it's still there.
Yeah, good idea.
Chris has told me some of the things people have put, for instance, into recycling and into trash. And when it gets squished, it's liquid.
Yeah.
So that can be a concern.
Right.
Clemens, do you have a recommended action concerning this? It says possible action, so I'm.
Yeah, the action that we would like is to authorize the distribution of a Prop 218 notice for a 1.97% solid waste rate increase with a public hearing scheduled for December 3rd.
Do we have, who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second,
And Rick makes a second. Thank you very much, Scott and Rick. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
um,
And Director Lohman waved
Director
yes.
Lohman, sorry.
oh, there we go. I vote yes.
Good. Okay, last item, review and possible action concerning real estate broker services.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. So we went to the board the last meeting and
Actually, I'm sorry, Clemens, could I interrupt? I think Director Lohman needs to make a statement,
oh, I'm
a
sorry.
conflict of interest statement, and then leave the meeting, or however we did it last time. Did he mute?
That's how we did it. Thank you for the reminder.
Sure.
That's fine. Are we just discussing a realtor or are we discussing an actual property?
An actual property.
Okay, I will need to recuse myself because my property is close to one of the discussed properties. So I'll sign out completely. And if someone can text me when it's safe to come back.
Why don't you just stay online and I'm gonna mute you and take your video off. You can listen to the item. There's no problem if you listen to it. We don't. Okay.
Sorry, before you mute him, quick question, just to verify for purposes of the regulation, Director Lohman, your property is your personal residence, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're talking about the real interest in real property conflict under the regulations.
That's exactly what I said.
Great. Just want to make sure we comply. Thank you.
See you folks later.
And Rick, we'll need you shortly for the report section. So go pour the stuff.
Okay.
Now about this item.
Okay, thank you very much. So at the last board meeting, we went to the board and asked for authorization to start negotiations about a bunch of properties. There's some properties that we're looking at to dispose and others that we are looking to acquire. And so for that purpose, the board appointed the legal counsel, Christine, and myself, the general manager, as property negotiators. And really what we're asking here in this item is to add now Ivor Highstead with selfsf.com as a property negotiator. Ivor is a real estate broker with a lot of experience that we would like to engage with. So the recommendation is first to approve a professional services agreement with Ivor Highstead to represent the district in connection with the property, and also to authorize the district manager to execute a professional services agreement and take other necessary actions to perform the district's obligation under said agreement and in connection with the property, and then appoint Ivor Highstead as additional district negotiator. Christine, if I forgot anything that we need to do, please fill in.
Sure. The property that we're identifying is the one in the staff report located at 771 Rivera Drive in Montara,
Okay.
or Rivera Road. So it's specific, we're asking for authorization to retain real estate brokerage services relating to that particular property.
And also for the Caltrans right of way.
Exactly.
I don't want to forget that one.
We don't.
No,
Thank you.
good.
President.
Gentlemen, discussion? Seeing hearing no discussion, do we have a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Ivor Heistad, CEO of sellsf.com, to represent the district in connection with properties?
And yes, that, and authorize the district manager to execute a professional services agreement, take the other necessary actions to perform the district's obligations under said agreement in connection with the property, and appoint Ivor Heistad as additional district negotiator.
I second that.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Peter. Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Director Loman has recused himself and could not be seen or heard.
And Director
Harvey is not present.
all right, moving along to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side. Rick, help. We need Rick for this.
Oh, I need to get him back. I'm sorry. Unmute. You can talk. Where
Hey,
is
Rick. Rick?
Are you getting me video back or what?
he? Trying.
That's okay.
1 second.
We're talking about Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side, and it's
you
been a
can
long
start.
day and my mind is at a total blank.
I'd have to call it up real quick if you want to.
Well, I have
Sure.
nothing to report on Mid-Coast Community Council. You have nothing on CSDA. We have nothing on LAFCO.
The quick thing on LAFCO is the voting is now ongoing for the special districts representative to LAFCO. I do not know any of the results at this point.
Okay, and attorney's report,
Oh, no report. Thank you.
director's reports. Seeing none, general manager's report is written. Do you have anything to add, Clemens?
Nothing to add. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, we have future agendas on the defined benefit plan actuarial evaluation, the strategic community planning workshop. So that would be our strategic plan, Greg. We've got some thinking to do on that because the last strategic plans we had, the last major strategic plan we had what, 150 people show up, Clemens. So we've got to figure out how we're going to do this. But now we're going to recess and convene in closed session. So
Excuse
we
me,
will.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Madam President. I will need Director Loman to make another statement in open session because the 771 Rivera property is also a closed session item. And it would be Director Loman that you are recusing yourself from item 2 on the closed session because of your conflict of interest under Government Code Section 87100. Do you agree with that statement?
Before I do that, my wife asked if this could be extended so she doesn't have to see or hear me when she doesn't want to.
She could put you on Zoom exactly that way. You could get one half the house, she could have the other.
Okay, I was stalling as I'm trying to load the 5,000 page SAM agenda here, PDF. So yes, I agree with that. And
thank you.
When we get to that part of the discussion, I will recuse myself and leave. I do have the SAM agenda up if we want to deal with that, although I don't think it was, anything that critical.
As I recall, there was nothing particularly
They were, recoding the digester and painting it, replacing a dying, rusted out vehicle. So it was just sort of like basic repairs and things like that. So.
The only thing I can say is we got out very early. It was a good meeting all in all. So
It
let's
must have been the
recess.
president who did that.
Let's recess then, and we can give you a call when we're on the next closed session agenda item.
So is the one I have to recuse myself first? So I have to.
We're going to make that first, although
I can totally bail for a while.
I don't see the consultants on screen.
Well, I'm texting them all. They're all logging in right now. So
Okay.
we're gonna need 5 minutes break.
Let's
texting
come
them
back
so
in
they're all-
5 minutes then, gang.
Okay.